Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother and sister. All praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the merciful and the beneficent one who creates the world to the all mankind. The Quran came down long before sophisticated scientific research was present. But research that has been scientifically proven and carried out by a scientist has been written in the Quran. Yes, of course, because the Quran contains the truth. A number of scientists were surprised to find that their research existed and was explained in the Quran. So, what phenomena have been proven scientifically correct and have previously been explained in the Quran? Here are some scientists who eventually converted to Islam. But before continuing, please click subscribe, like and turn on the notification bell to support this channel so that it continues to broadcast Islamic messages. Research on Pharaoh's mummies. Raised in a Christian environment, Maurice Bucaille was educated at the Faculty of Medicine at the University of France, and was an outstanding student. Maurice Bucaille is a French surgeon specializing in gastroenterology and author. In 1973, he was appointed family physician to King Faisal of Saudi Arabia. At that time, the French government offered assistance to the Egyptian government to study and analyze the pharaoh's mummy. Maurice Bucaille was the principal surgeon and in charge of this study. The final results he obtained were astounding. The remains of salt stuck to the mummy's body is the biggest proof that he died by drowning in the sea. However, the discoveries made by Bucaille left questions. The question is, how can this body be preserved and better than other mummies? One of the Muslim scholars, when opening the Mushaf of the Quran and reading to Bucaille the word of Allah, which means, "So today we saved your body so that you will be a lesson for those who come after you," and in fact most of humanity is not aware of the signs of power we. Quran Surah Yunus verse 92. Maurice Bucaille couldn't believe it and was amazed to hear that. He wondered how this could have happened when the mummy was not found until 1898 AD, or approximately 200 years ago, while the Quran, the holy book of Muslims, has informed us more than 1,400 years ago. In their religion, the Christian scriptures Gospel of Matthew and Luke do tell about the drowning of the Pharaoh. They pursued Musa alayhi salam but did not mention his body intact for the lessons of the people afterward. Quran Surah Yunus verse 92 has guided Maurice Bucaille's heart to become a convert. Maurice later wrote a book, the Bible, the Quran and Modern Science, in the introduction of which he wrote, "From the very beginning, the scientific values contained in the Quran were astounding. I had absolutely no idea that in the text that had been compiled 13 centuries ago, information about all kinds of things was found, and it fits perfectly with modern scientific knowledge." Scientific evidence about the night of Laylatul Qadr. An official of the United States Space Agency named Karner converted to Islam because he saw firsthand the magic of the night of Laylatul Qadr. Apart from that, Karner also saw the magic of the Kaaba, which touched his heart and embraced Islam. Abdul Basit as-Sayyid, as quoted from the Egyptian daily Al-Waft. Sayyid emphasized that NASA found scientific evidence about the night of Laylatul Qadr. However, this information was hidden because it was feared that many non-Muslims would convert to Islam and embrace Islam. Sayyid emphasized that it is scientifically proven that every day there are 10 stars and 20,000 meteors that fall into the Earth's atmosphere, except on the night of Laylatul Qadr. This was discovered by NASA 12 years ago. Sayyid's statement was based on information provided by a former NASA official, Karner. Sayyid on the Egyptian TV program emphasized that Karner finally converted to Islam and was willing to lose his position at NASA. At that time, said Sayyid, Karner saw evidence that was very similar to the signs of the coming of the night of Laylatul Qadr as described in the Quran and the hadiths of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. At that time the air was very cool, the sky was starless but looked bright. After that, Karner also declared his Islam. Process of human creation.
Intensive studies of the Quran and Hadith in the last 4 years have revealed a system for classifying human embryos that is amazing, since it was recorded in the 7th century AD.
Dr. Keith Moore, who was president of America's ASSN of Clinical Anatomists in 1989 to 1991. Dr. Keith Moore was born on October 5, 1925 in Brantford, Ontario, Canada. He is also a professor known for his literature on anatomy and embryology. The results of his research became medical handbooks around the world and are used by scientists, doctors, physiotherapists, and students around the world. Because of his discovery, he was also awarded many titles and honorary posts in the field of science. It is an honor, of course, if the results of his research can be used by scientists, doctors, and physiotherapists around the world. But one day, when he was in Saudi Arabia, he was approached by a group of students who showed him verses from the Koran about the creation of man. How surprised he was when a student showed the verse and interpreted its meaning. It turned out that what was in the verse was a scientific fact that he had just discovered. The Prophet Muhammad must have used a microscope to compile this verse. It is impossible for this verse to be written in the 7th century AD because what is contained in the verse is a scientific fact that has just been solved. Without modern science, it is impossible to solve this. Muhammad must have used a microscope, said Dr. Keith Moore. However, at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, the microscope had not yet been invented. Dr. Keith Moore was amazed by what is written in the Al-Quran, the holy book of Muslims, the Quran and As-Sunnah, which refers to human reproduction and fetal development. Allah said, "Then we made the semen something that was attached, then something that was attached to it we made a lump of flesh, and the lump of flesh we made bones, then we covered the bones with meat." Surah Al-Mu'min in verse 13-14. Etymologically, it can be interpreted as a clot of blood and also means blood-sucking, namely leeches. Even though we know that at 7 to 24 days, there is no better explanation for the embryo at that stage than to compare it to a leech. The embryo is like sucking blood from the uterine lining, because it is. The embryo feeds from the bloodstream. This is similar to blood being sucked up by a leech like a fetus. It also feeds on the nourishment contained in its mother's blood. And it was impossible for Muhammad, who lived at that time with limited knowledge and technology, to know that it was clear that this was a revelation that came from Allah through the intermediary of the angel Gabriel, said Dr. Keith Moore. Finally believed that the Quran is the true holy book because everything in it is in accordance with today's modern science. It was even reported that Dr. Keith Moore converted to Islam, but his Islam was kept secret. Thank you for watching. Like, follow and subscribe. You mean a lot to us to add enthusiasm to creating more useful content.